this wasn't here, the road wasn't here. The river was here, okay? And what they did is the water flows downstream. They cut a canal off Oswego Lake, off of the Oswego River, and it went right down the side of the lake, past the road, and they made a right turn under the mill, and that's what powers the mill. So the story starts here. Okay, the river was over to the left. This is the canal. Now this canal is about a half a mile long. It is approximately 20 feet deep and 30 feet wide, and this was dug with shovels. People with just shovels just take it, and they got paid by the cubic foot of dirt that they moved. It's a pretty amazing place. So if you can imagine back in the 1850s, a crew of men digging this canal. So the water would flow through this canal. It would go over to the mill, which is on the other side of the road, which wasn't there back in the 1850s. And the water pressure of the water is what would run the turbines. So you look at this, it's a pretty historic thing, pretty amazing thing to have done by pick and shovel. You are now currently at the Harris Paper Mill. It's amazing to me that 1,000 people a day drive by this and they see a green fence and they don't have any clue about the history that's right behind the fence, which is only about 10 yards from a main highway. Back in the 1850s, this wall, that's the only remaining wall from the mill itself, this mill was about 100 yards long. Actually, it was about 300 yards long, and it was 2.5 stories, and this is all that's remaining. There was a whole city that existed because of this paper mill. There were mansions, there were workers' cottages, there was a big dormitory building, and back in the 1850s, there were actually gas street lamps all along this area. The mill and some of the houses were also gaslight, which back in the day was pretty impressive for a little place out in the pines. It's called Hay Landing, and back in the day, boats would go down this river, down out to the salt marshes, and they would cut salt hay, which was basically reeds that grew along the marshes. It's just called salt hay. It looks like hay. It's about a foot tall. The boats would come back up loaded with the salt hay. They would take it by wagon to the mill, which is about a quarter mile up this road, and that's what they would make the paper with. And what they made, it was called the Harris Paper Mill. They didn't make paper like you would write on. They made butcher block paper. So back in the day, if you went to the butcher, the meat would be wrapped in the heavy brown paper, and they made it into big rolls. And when they got rolls done, maybe at 100 at a time, they would take them by wagon to an area about 10 miles from here called Harris Station, which was where the railroad would stop and pick up all the paper.
Yeah.
Okay, you see the canal? Now the canal at this point has come across where this road was, and it would make a hard right, and it'd be going right into the mill, which the mill is south of here. But we'll come out here and color of it, that it's very heavy iron content. And what they did is they dug an artesian well, hoping that if they went low enough, they would find pure water so that it wouldn't rust out the turbines. And what happened is they actually went too deep, and they went through the layer of clear water and went back down to iron water, and they basically gave up. But this well has been running since the 1850s. There's still water coming out of it. It's been coming out of it continually for almost 200 years. It's kind of an amazing feat of...
Wall of the remaining paper mill.
If you look at the wall, what you see is the arches over what is the canal. The canal is coming under the building wall into the interior of the mill, and that's what ran the 3 turbines that were inside the paper mill. And those arches are probably the strongest remaining part of that wall. In the 30 years that I've been here, whole sections of this wall have collapsed. Every time there's a rain, we lose a little bit more.
Crazy indeed. Hope you're not lonely without me.